Welcome to Joey's Social Club. I'm Joey Seifert. And today's special guest, we have Toni Tranchita. Toni, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Joe?
Good, good. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Absolutely. We've been going back and forth. We met because of Kevin, right? That's how we started talking. Big
Yes.
Kevin.
Big KG.
We'll give KG a little shout out on the show.
KG in the house.
He'll love that. So you have I usually do with like outfit stories and stuff like that, but you have a completely different story. It has nothing to do with the outfit, but it's a really powerful story.
Ties to the outfit though.
Uh-oh, you do. All right, we'll get to that. We'll get to that part. But everything that I've known and since I've known and talked to you and stuff, it's been a really I just took it as it's a really powerful story of redemption, of coming through some of the worst things that you could go through and rebuilding your life. So let's go back to, tell me about your childhood. Are you originally from Illinois?
I grew up in Beverly.
Okay.
93rd and Winchester in the Christ the King Parish. Very Irish Catholic. My parents were Italian. My mom was divorced when I was at the age of 3. So she wasn't your typical Beverly housewife.
And that's home of top-notch burgers, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Yes, the best burgers ever. Yeah, we used to go there for lunch.
Yeah, they got good food.
Yeah.
My parents divorced, so my mom raised us as a single mom, but we lived with my grandparents.
Okay.
And my great aunt. It was a very blended family. A lot of my mom was growing up herself, so she wasn't a present figure in my life.
So she was pretty young.
Yeah, she had me young, and she was in a very abusive marriage with my dad. So
okay. And then at what point did you? So that's progressing. You've always stayed in this area roughly.
Yes.
When did you start into? When was the period of time, like rough age, that you really started to get in some trouble?
I've always been a fighter, always. My freshman year in high school, I went to Morgan Park.
Okay.
I'm sorry, no, I went to Maria, and I hated Maria so much that I made sure that I didn't pass enough credits to get kicked out. So I got sent to Morgan Park High School.
Okay.
My sophomore year. I went to 4 different high schools. I went to Morgan Park and I fell in with the wrong crowd, started ditching classes, started getting high, fighting.
So was that the first time drugs were introduced to you is in high school?
Yes, in high school.
Okay.
And then I left Morgan Park and went out to Sandburg. My mom actually gave up custody of me to my aunt and uncle.
Okay.
And there's a lot of resentments I have from that. So then my aunt and I did not get along very well, and I was a threat to her. So after a very tumultuous 1.5 years of living with her, I moved back to my mom, and I ended up at Mount Assisi High School.
Okay.
And I actually turned from a straight F student to almost straight A's. I made the honor roll.
Wow.
And I graduated high school, but I did it.
You did it. How is I was gonna wait till later, but I'll ask, since you brought up your mom, how's your mom doing now?
My mom today has stage 4 lung cancer. It has spread to her spine and her brain. She's holding her own today. We just put her on a baby food diet, but I let her eat some crab last night, so she's doing pretty good.
Good. Yeah, I know. We're friends on Facebook, so I follow them all the time to see how she's doing.
Yeah.
So you graduated high school. What was your plan once you graduated? Where were you going from there?
I wanted to be a teacher.
Really?
I really did.
What did you want to teach?
I wanted to teach preschool and little kids. I loved kids. And
that's awesome.
My favorite memories of my childhood were my teachers. I grew up in a Catholic house, and I actually had my 7th grade teacher, Joan Albrecht, shout out to Christ the King. She was my sponsor.
Nice.
You know how you have a confirmation sponsor?
Yeah.
So she was my sponsor back in 7th grade, and her and Ms. Daly and Miss Erickson, they really had an impact on me, and I wanted to be them.
Okay.
And my life turned a whole different way.
So at what point, so you're like, you graduated, you went from straight F's to straight A's on a roll. At what point does that take a turn and go the other direction?
I was dating this guy, and he was really good to me. He had some health problems. I went to work for a bowling alley. They also owned a carnival. I'm not going to mention any names.
Okay.
I fell into the wrong group, and I was introduced to the wide world of cocaine.
So you fell back into the wrong group.
Yes. And I lost a really good relationship because of the drugs. Then I had won a settlement against White Hen. I had fallen and gotten hurt and won a whole bunch of money. And I put all that money up my nose, to be honest.
My God.
Yeah, it was bad.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Then I got involved with my daughter's father. I had my daughter in 96, and he had his own issues. We ended up splitting up. I moved back home, and then I got into recovery, Narcotics Anonymous.
Okay.
And I did good. I did good for a long time.
How many coins did you get?
Back then, I only got 6 months, and I'm going to tell you why. This is what I did.
They give you your little chips, right? Your little.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your little chips, your little coins.
Yeah.
I had an amazing sponsor, but at that time I was 25 years old. I still wanted to drink. I didn't believe alcohol was a drug.
Okay.
I literally got into a fight with my sponsor at the time, Janet A. Shout out. Her and I, in her living room, I will never forget this, got into an argument that I relapsed because I drank. And I was like, no, my problem's with alcohol. Well, anyhow, needless to say, I got involved with someone in NA. I was not very kind to him.
Wait, so you met somebody in NA at one of the meetings? Okay. See, I've heard situations like that before. You go and you meet somebody else there, and you end up becoming.
Well, no, I didn't use because of him. I actually moved out with him, but I was cheating on him with another guy that I met that was living in a recovery home. And I can go ahead and I'll tell you about just Justin. Justin moved in with me, and he lived with me. And in 2002, he passed away. He had his own issues. And I'll never forget this. 3 months to the day he passed away, I picked up again. And
you picked up and started using again?
Yes. So it was November he passed away. So November, December, January. January, I picked up January 12th, and I used from January 12th until 2012.
Yeah, usually in those meetings, they tell you that, drugs, obviously, but alcohol, everything you're not supposed to do any of that stuff. You're not supposed to have a relationship. Like, you're supposed to keep your stress level to the lowest possible point so you can deal with what you're supposed to deal with.
Yes. I did not do any of that the first go around.
Right. So you were still young. So sometimes that's more difficult being younger.
In 2009, I ran into an ex-boyfriend. Justin had been gone for 7 years. I ran into an ex-boyfriend in high school. We got together, and 3 months to the day of us getting together, he reintroduced me to the world of crack cocaine.
So you went from regular cocaine now to crack cocaine, which to crack I feel cocaine is worse.
It is worse.
Yeah.
I couldn't snort anymore because I had done so much.
Yeah.
So
you trashed your sinuses.
Oh, big time. So when Jerry and I had gotten together, he had 4 kids. I had my daughter, and I just watched my life go. Here, I'm going to sum up my whole relationship with Jerry. We went to Missouri for a weekend. I had almost $1,000 in my bank account. I had gold jewelry all over me. Came home that weekend. I had to call my cousin and say, could you wire me $25 so he could put gas in the gas tank to get home?
Yeah, you guys burned it.
And that was my whole relationship with Jerry.
Yeah. Now, how old was your daughter at this time?
My daughter was in 2009. She passed away in 2012. She was 16. 11,
Okay.
12,
So she was so
14.
young, and she
Yeah.
was with you full time at that point, or no?
Yeah, Taylor didn't move out until 2012.
Okay.
Her and Jerry did not get along, so she went and lived with my mom.
Okay.
And my mom and I weren't getting along, and I wanted to move back home, but I'm not gonna lie, I was in my addiction, and I had no business being around my daughter.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
deep in at that point.
oh, it was really bad.
Yeah.
I literally would go and rob stores to pay for our addiction, to pay for our drugs. And this is to all the women out there. Like, we don't realize how powerful our significant others play in our lives. I would have done anything to please this man.
I think
And
that's for everybody in a relationship, that the partner you choose has a lot to do with where you go in life.
big time.
Yeah.
And Jerry, I'll never forget, we were sitting in his loft and he's like throwing stuff because he didn't have any more drugs. And I'm like, I'll go get them. And I went to the store to go steal, and I got caught.
You
I
got
was in all the
arrested.
papers. Yes, I got arrested a few times. I was in and out of Cook County from 2010 till 2012,
Now, was
January
this the
24th.
first time you got arrested?
I
Yeah.
was in my 40s and I was doing drugs and getting arrested, and my life was going down the tubes.
Cook County's an
Um,
eye opener, isn't it?
oh my God, Cook County's worse than prison. I actually did
Right.
prison time. Cook County's horrible. It was, and I was in the women's program. When I went in for the last time on January 24th of 2012, I'll never forget, I just gotten out like 2 months earlier, and the guards are like, Tranchita, you're back. I'm like, I know.
Don't
And
you
they
hate
took me,
that? I've
I,
talked to so many other people, and they said the worst thing isn't always walking through the door. The worst thing is when you walk back in and the guards that have seen you before, like, ugh, you're back again. Like,
and they
you can't get
saw
your
me
shit
getting
straight.
better. Right. So, and I'll never forget this. I had to go through medical, and I'll never forget, the nurse comes in, she goes, we got to give you another urine test. And I looked at her and I said, what? And she goes, and I said, oh my God, I'm pregnant. And she couldn't tell me yes. So
Yeah.
she's going, no.
Yeah.
And she was shaking her head yes and telling me no, because it's against HIPAA for her to tell me. And I found out I was pregnant with my now 9-year-old son, TJ.
Wow.
Um, and I went to court, and I thought, oh, and in my head, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be no big deal. I'm gonna be sitting in, Cook County for another 30 days. They'll let me out again on bond, whatever.
Yeah.
Nope. This time I went in, the judge was fed up with me. She's like, that's it. You're doing 2 years. And Dwight, and I couldn't even say goodbye to nobody. And I was supposed to have, my daughter was supposed to come up that Saturday to visit me, but I got shipped out that Wednesday. So I didn't even get to say goodbye to my daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went down to Dwight Prison, and I got put in the infirmary because I was a high risk pregnancy. I was 41 years old. I was a diabetic, high cholesterol, high, what's the other thing? Cholesterol and blood pressure.
Blood pressure. Yeah.
So they put me in the infirmary, and I spent my entire pregnancy in the infirmary.
The whole time. So
Yes.
I guess that's not a horrible thing to be in the infirmary instead of being in Gen Pop, right?
It wasn't too bad, but you're closed off. I was only allowed out a half hour a day.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to tell you about the worst day of my life in the infirmary. My birthday is November 12th. Now, in 2002, Justin, who I talked about, had passed away November 16th. So my birthday, it was in November, and I was laying in the, I had a really cool celly, and we were watching TV, but we never watched 2, 5, or 7 ever. And we were sitting there, and the officer comes, bangs on my thing. She's like, Tranchita, you got to visit.
Why did you guys never watch 2, 5, or 7?
I don't know. We just never wanted to watch the news. So
oh,
we would
okay. So you
watch,
just made it so it was the news. You just never wanted to see the
right.
news.
We just watched, and there was more stuff like on A&E and TNT and the
Okay.
movie channel, things like that.
Yeah.
So it was a Tuesday. It was November 13th. November 12th, I tried calling home and my mom did not put no money on the phone. And at that time in prison, you could chirp where you would call and I'd be like, my daughter would pick up the phone and I'd hear her say, I love you, mommy.
Yeah.
And then she would hang up and then I'd call back and we'd have conversations like that. So I had been mad because I'd been chirping my daughter the night before and I wanted a conversation with her. And I was so mad my mom wouldn't put money on because my birthday was coming up and they didn't come for the weekend.
Okay.
So the next morning on the 13th, I took down all of her pictures because it was just too hard to look at her. I missed her so much.
Yeah.
And I literally, like in prison, would wake up and want to hug my daughter so bad because I was clean. I got, could think again. You get your emotions back. And so Tall comes, knocks on my door. She's like, Tranchita, you got to visit at 3:30. I'm going to come get you. I said, okay. My roommate Heather's like, oh, your daughter's here to see you. The whole time I'm talking to everybody in the prison. My daughter's here to see me. My daughter's here.
You're all excited.
So excited. I will never forget this day as long as I live.
Yeah.
Get in the van and it is freaking 70 degrees out. And the nurse is like, Toni, do you want to walk to the thing? And I'm like, because I was huge. I was diabetic pregnancy too. So I retained a lot of amniotic fluid.
Yeah.
So I get in there and now I was in Dwight and that's the main hub for women's prison. Okay. So I go in and I have to do the strip down and I'm talking to the officer all about my daughter. And she's like, okay. She's like, I put your family in the seg room. I'm like, why? Yeah. She's like, you need privacy. I'm like, okay, I'll never forget.
So at that point, you had no clue or idea of nothing like registered to you, like, hey, something's not right.
Open the door. Now, Dwight, their prison visiting room was packed all the time. Today, this day, November 13th, 2012, I opened the door. There was nobody in there. Spooky. Nobody. I look across and there's my sister and her husband. And Bill had never come to see me. And I'm like, okay, where's my daughter? Yeah. So I walk in, my sister comes up and she meets me at the door. And I'll never forget this. And I'm going to start crying. She said there was an accident. And I said, what happened to mom? And she goes, Mom, my daughter had been shot and killed.
Oh my God. All right, take your time. That's hard.
And then on top of this, my mom had filed a restraining order on me like 2 years earlier, and they decided that day to kick it in. So I couldn't even talk to my mom. God. My mom was sitting outside the prison to tell me that my at the time, my only child, my firstborn, my Taylor, had been shot and killed. All I knew was
that. Did they explain the situation, like how it happened, why it happened, and everything?
All that I knew was that she was in a car with friends and that there was one bullet shot into the car and it hit her in the cheek, came out her forehead, and that her body didn't want to give up, but her brain was gone. She was brain dead.
Were they like at a party? Were they buying something? Or
she was out with her friend Jaquela. I'm not going to say her last name because I don't want anything, but they were in a car and they were driving down 112th and Normal with Jaquela's boyfriend. Okay. 6 people in the car. My daughter was the only white person in the car. She had just gotten out of the front seat and was sitting in the back seat, and they went over a speed bump, and this person supposedly came out from behind the bushes, shot once and hit my daughter right here, and it came out here. I don't know a lot about guns, but word that I've heard different stories. I wasn't there. I don't know the truth, but I was told that Jaquela had given my daughter a fake $10 bill to buy drugs, and that whoever it was put a gun to my daughter's cheek and shot. I don't know if that's true. I'm putting that out there, but I do know that there was one shot and it did come out her forehead.
And was that ever solved? Did the police ever solve it?
Yes. Deion Blandon was arrested for the murder. He is in Dixon in Illinois right now. And they gave him 20 years. When Anita Alvarez was outvoted, Kim Fox gave him a deal of 20 years, knocked off the 25-year gun sentence that should have gone along with it. He should have got 45 years, but he only has to do 20.
And what was his background? Did you find out what his background was?
I know that he was a boy of the streets. Remember that boy that was beat up the school over on 103rd?
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
something to do with it. I don't know the details, and I don't want to
Yeah.
misrepresent
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
facts, but I know he had something to do with it. He was out on a warrant for retail theft, and I know that he was raised by his grandmother. So I know, and like his family was all gun related and gangs and all that stuff. And I remember writing something that not only did I lose my child, but his family lost their son too,
Yeah.
and both of our children were gone to the streets.
For $10.
Right, and it kills me.
So
Whatever.
now this is how far through your sentence?
I was 4 months pregnant with my son. I got put in there in June, and Taylor was murdered in November. So June, July, August, September,
Oh
October.
God, you had just started.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they let you out for the funeral?
No,
What?
this was the deal. Yeah, they were going to. My mom's friend who used to work with her, Ronnie, was a Chicago police officer. He offered to pay for me to come home, but I didn't know who the guards would have been. I was a high risk pregnancy.
Yeah.
I would have came from Dwight to the church. They would, and my family had the church for the funeral. It was a funeral wake the same day.
Mhm.
They would have had to clear out the whole church for me to
Yeah.
see Taylor's body for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And if I freaked out, I could have gotten in trouble, could have got put in SEG.
Yeah.
So, and then back then, like they wanted to put me in a turtle suit, which consists of like this shell,
Yeah.
no clothes on, and I would have been put in a cell by myself, no bed, no nothing, just a mat,
Yeah.
because I would have been a suicide. But thank God, Officer Tall, I'll never forget this woman as long as I live. She's like, no, Tranchita needs to be around people. Tranchita will lose it if you put her by herself. And
So you
because
weren't
of that,
able to go to the funeral for your daughter. What?
no.
So you're in the area that you're in. Did you have, obviously were some of those people really good to you? Did they like support you and make sure that you weren't alone? And
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I was in with murderers, killers, and I have never felt so much love in my life.
yeah.
One of the girls, I still talk to her to this day. She used to help me, like bring me, because I was pregnant. She used to give me pickles, chocolate. I'm not gonna say her name because I don't want to get in trouble. She's still there. But she used to bring me things to help me through. And when I'll never forget it, when my daughter passed, she made me this beautiful card. This other girl, Cindy, her mom sent letters and articles on Taylor. And when I came back from finding out about my daughter, Officer Tall opened up the thing for all of us, and we got to sit. And that's when I saw on the news, Channel 5 News, and they put that the mother and daughter had this tumultuous relationship, and the daughter didn't want to be with the mom. And that's not what it was at all. My family didn't want the world to know that I was in prison when my daughter was killed.
Yeah, that's just the stupid, the news is. That's just the news. They just, they want to tell headlines. They don't give a shit.
They make up what they want.
Exactly. Whatever they think is gonna,
right.
Violence and guts and gore and all that crap.
It was the craziest thing in my life. And then in January, my friend was released, my roommates, and they took her TV. And another guard felt sorry for me, so she got me a state issued TV because I was going crazy in my room alone.
Yeah.
The things that you think about and the guilt that you feel, and
oh sure,
it was
and you're
horrible.
locked in a box. You can't get out. You can't do anything. You can't talk to anybody. You can't nothing.
And the books that I read were insane. I had really good support on the outside. I didn't realize how many people actually loved and cared about me until my daughter, my friend Nina, childhood friend Nina, she wrote me all the time, sent me money on my books, and we hadn't talked for years. And we actually were able to reconnect our friendship from that. Baby daddy was nowhere to be found, but hey, that's okay.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Oh,
unfortunately, it's like a common thing you hear.
I'll never forget. He came up the day after my daughter was killed, and he had my link card, and my sister had called to tell him that my daughter passed, and his mother said, wow, that's a bad lie to tell just to get the link card. I
Right.
mean, why would my family call to lie to you about my daughter being killed and then they saw it on the news?
Right.
So I mean,
So at that point, you're
go
not
ahead.
even halfway through your sentence. You still are going to give birth in prison.
Yes.
How? Tell me a little bit about, because obviously I have no idea. Tell me about that experience, like what that's like.
Well, it's horrible because the mental health issue, they closed down all the mental health wards, hospitals. So, and they don't have a mental health unit in prison. Well, they didn't where I was at. They had this woman across from me who used to scream at me, telling me that my baby was going to die.
Well,
And
okay.
I know she had mental problems, but that really messes with your head.
Well, sure.
Um,
Especially after
and
going through what you just went through.
Right. And
Yeah.
then you would go and you weren't allowed out. So you would get unlocked out and they would walk you to the doctor's office, see the doctor, come back, and like I was in the infirmary, we couldn't get commissary. Like if you're on a gen pop, you could get pickles and chips and stuff. I couldn't get any of that because I was in the health ward and they had me on a specific diet. He actually wrote a prescription for me to have 2 trays because I was so hungry all the time.
Oh, you
And
didn't
while
have to eat like the sweat meat and stuff.
oh, it was horrible. Dude,
One of my friends told me about that. They're like, I'm like, sweat meat. What are you talking about? They're like, the meat, if you look at it, actually like sweats while it's on your
It
plate.
does. And it looks like, I don't even know how to explain it to
It
you.
looks like,
It's
yeah, like a piece of rubber spam or like an old
just
Salisbury
stuff,
steak.
there's no taste to it.
Yeah.
And they would always like, they had to write an order that they had to bring me fruit because I was a diabetic and my sugars kept dropping to 38. That's dangerously low with a baby.
I mean, what kind of food are they giving you? If you're getting special food, what kind of food are they? So what kind of food are they giving you?
Well, I used to get rotten bananas,
Like,
like fruit that was old. I would
okay.
get milk, but it wouldn't be cold milk because we would get the last tray because we were so far from the kitchen.
Yeah.
And like the guards would feel sorry for me and I would get an extra tray here and there. So I would save my trays so I would eat. And then, like I said, my friends would smuggle me in chips and stuff.
So
So
you're supposed to be on a special diet, but you're literally eating garbage and crap. I mean, you're not
exactly.
eating anything great.
No, and then because I was such a high risk pregnancy, I was supposed to be going to this. There was a clinic downtown in Rush Hospital for they call it a geriatric pregnancy.
Okay.
And because I was in my 40s and I had all those issues. And I was supposed to be going there like once every 2 weeks for checkups. I would go once every 6 months, 4 months, whatever it was. I wasn't going like I was supposed to be. There was one time I was on the bus and I almost passed out on the bus. They actually had to pull over, which they're not supposed to do, but
Mm-hmm.
they thought I was going to die. So they had to make sure that my sugars were okay. We had to check my sugars. It was bad.
So then on
Um,
top of it, I know when you're pregnant, like I know women are supposed to be taking like, prenatal vitamins and all that other stuff. Are you getting any of that stuff in jail? Nothing. You're getting nothing.
nothing.
Man.
It was bad. And then
Yeah, that's terrible.
right before my daughter had passed away, I was having a really bad time. The nurse and I didn't get along, and I dropped my insulin needle on the ground. And she said that I threw it at her, which I did not. I got put in segregation for a
Yeah.
week, which meant I was locked in. I couldn't even leave the room for a half hour. It
Yeah.
was horrible.
Now,
But
how big
yeah,
is this room that you're in? What's the size of the room you're in, roughly?
um,
It's not a
probably
normal cell. It's like an open room, right?
it was half of a normal. Well, no, because I was in the it was like a bedroom size
Okay.
because I was in the hospital, so I had a little bit bigger room.
So you had a little bit bigger space.
Right, so I could like I know I used to walk the room all the time, and then the officer Tall was really good to us back there because we were all there for a long time. So she put me in with this girl, and then I got another really good roommate who was a diabetic too. So I I mean, I had great roommates. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
Great cellies. Like I said, I still talk to some of my cellies. And the one girl that helped me out so much, I'll never forget her. In fact, I just sent her son a jacket. But I don't know how to explain it. Actually I do, you're in a whole different world.
Yeah.
Call it the outside world and the inside world. And
Yeah, it's completely different.
Very different.
Yeah. I've talked to so many people, they have, when they get out, that's when they really have trouble. They have trouble adjusting to the regular, I guess you call it the regular world, but a lot of them have trouble adjusting.
Yes, it's hard.
But so you give birth to your son.
I gave birth to my son. I got to pick his birthday. And I actually picked it on my best friend from I was 3 years old, Lisa B. Her and TJ share the same birthday. They took me to the hospital, Morris, Illinois, and I got there and I didn't want to give birth to him because I had to have a C-section.
Okay.
And I knew once I gave birth to him that I had no control over what happened to him anymore.
Yeah, see, that's what I was going to ask.
My biggest
do you
fear
get to keep him, or once you give birth?
I was allowed to have him because I had C-section. I was allowed 3 days with him. But when I first gave birth to him, I'll never forget it. They opened me up and I heard this, eh, and I'm like, is that my baby? And then you hear this, eh, and I'm like, that's my baby. And they brought him over to me, and then he had problems breathing. So they had to put him in the ICU real quick.
Okay.
And so I didn't get to see him for a day and a half. And I'll never forget, I got up to go from my room and they're like, can you walk? And I'm like, I'll try. And we walked around and I just had so much blood coming down my legs from giving birth. It was bad.
Yeah.
And I went and saw him and they're like, okay, we got to take you back because I wasn't doing good. I was throwing up and it was not an easy pregnancy.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. I don't know that most of them are, but.
But I am going to tell you that I had an amazing nurse. She sat me down and she talked me through, okay, you can do this. And she's the reason that I agreed to go through and give birth to my son because I wasn't gonna. I was gonna let him keep until he wanted to come out. I didn't care. I was like, no, I'm refusing the surgery. And then when my family came to pick him up, they're not supposed to do this, but everybody knew my story about Taylor. So when it was time for me to be discharged, they told my family, sit right here, don't say a word to her. And they're going to walk her right out so she can see the baby. And the guard, I loved her, and I don't want to say names. So the guard, she's like, Tranchita, wait, I got to tie my shoe. And she bent down to tie her shoe so I could see my baby.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And then my family, of course, brought the baby right up, but I had to get cleared by the nurses and everything before I could see the baby. But I'm going to tell you, once I was there, nobody was allowed to come look at the baby because everyone knew me. I mean, I'm not a quiet person. And when I would go on visits, I would talk to everyone. No one could come by and see the baby. It's not like, oh, you have a baby if you get back to your table. It was horrible.
So you said you were able to have your son 3 days a week?
Yes, I was only allowed to have him for 3 days while I was in the hospital.
Oh, while you were in the hospital. So you were able to take him back to prison with you and you were able to keep him there.
No, I was in the hospital.
Okay. So then when do you go? You go from there, you go back to prison, right?
I went back to prison and he went home with my sister and my mom.
Okay. That's what, yeah.
And then they closed Dwight 2 weeks after I gave birth. TJ was the second to the last baby born in Dwight. And they moved us to Logan. Well, it was too far of a drive. So from March until June, I didn't see TJ.
Wow.
And it was the loneliest feeling in the world.
Yeah.
I hated it. So
and June is when you got out?
When I got out, I'll never forget, I took the train. My family met me. My mom couldn't believe it was me. I had my hair braided back and it didn't look like me, but but yeah, I got my little baby and then I went home and I did really good for a year. I was the perfect mom. I had 3 days left on parole. And my son's father was partying. And I'll never forget this. I was doing there was a walk for the Chicago Food Depository. And I just left my friend John Kappas and he gave a good donation. And my son's father stole that. And him and I got into a fight about it.
Mhm.
And his mom called the cops and lied and said I hit him.
Yeah.
And I had to go back to prison. And because I had 7 days left of parole, I had to give them 3 days. But when I got to prison, the parole board had just left. I had gave them 44 days of dead time, waiting for them to come back just to get released. So I lost
Terrible.
44 days out of my son's life.
And of course, you weren't able to prove that that was a false claim.
Nope. No, because they don't, you're on parole. That's it.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jerry and Jolene lied all the time. I got reports upon reports where he'll say something and take it back. And it has not been easy, let me tell you.
So once you give up those 44 days, you get released again.
Yes. And I came home.
You stay
And
straight and forward, straight on the narrow at that point?
For a little while, 7 years I did good. I was only drinking, but I wasn't drinking all the time.
Were you going to meetings?
No, I was not working a program.
Okay.
I messed up there. Well, I had.
Well, 7 years isn't too bad for not working a program.
No, but I was in such a depression about my daughter. I would let my daughter's friends come over, and I didn't know how to put up boundaries, got totally taken advantage of. We ended up losing our condo. We were living in motels. And then October of 2019, I had had 16 unfounded DCFS calls on me for both
16.
prep. 16. I'm smoking crack. I'm doing this, but I would go take a drug test. It would be clean.
That is the
Everything was
most, I find the most abused thing that people use when they get mad at somebody else right away. They call DCFS. I'm going to call
Oh,
DCFS.
I'm going to tell you. Here's my story. So October 25th, 2019, I take my son to Christ Hospital. He had an allergic reaction.
Okay.
They gave me medication for him. I had put it on Facebook, my poor baby, because you know me, you're my friend. I post everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this friend of mine that I went to high school with called DCFS and told them I bit my son. Now, mind you, I had no teeth at the time. My teeth are a gift from Silver Lake Dental. Shout out to Jolene Schleider. They gifted me with my teeth through Almost Home with Sarah Galvin. I had no teeth at the time. I didn't even have the implants because I have snap-on dentures.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the doctor's report that it was an allergic reaction. In fact, he had another allergic reaction the day after, and my friend had brought me some Benadryl. Shout out to Dave S. So then October 31st, first I got a phone call from my ex, and he's like, hey, this number keeps calling, looking for you. I don't know what they want. Well, then I was speaking with my lawyer, Alexis Mansfield, and she got me involved in a group that does doulas, for they help to give women.
Yeah. Like all natural birth.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's I don't know the name, and I feel bad I'm not prepared. I'm gonna get you that name, Joey. But it's Chicago Women Doula Program.
Okay.
And really great women. And I was there, and Alexis looked it up. She's like, yeah, there's a case on you. And I'm like, okay. Went back to the hotel. On Halloween, TJ had stayed up all night because my son has autism and sensory processing disorder.
Okay.
Stayed up all night, got him on the bus for school, and somebody's banging on my window. Now, I was not in the best motel. It was cheap, couldn't afford to move anywhere else. She comes in, and she's very aggressive towards me. And she's like, this, and she wouldn't show me her ID. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
She's like, DCFS. I don't know if anybody that listens has ever dealt with DCFS, but they're supposed to give you a white sheet of paper that gives you the allegation.
Right.
She wouldn't give it to me.
They're a pain in the ass. I mean, to be flat out, they're a pain in the ass.
I'm not even gonna lie. This woman has such an attitude. She said that I was aggressive and I tried to hit her. Yeah. I was across the room trying to plug my phone in because I buy cheap Androids, and it wasn't holding a charge. And I was trying to plug my phone in to show her the pictures of TJ at the hospital.
Yeah.
And she turns and looks at me and she goes, I'm calling the police. You better get a safety plan. I'm taking your son. And walked out of my room. And I tried calling my sister. My sister thought I was being drama. The only way I found out that they did take my son is I called the school, and I'll never forget the principal. She's like, Ms. Tranchita, I'm not supposed to tell you this, but they just took TJ. And they took my son.
I'd be so pissed.
Oh, wait, it gets better. I had a lawyer from Cabrini Green Legal call them and say the little boy has sensory processing disorder and autism. Can you please make sure he's in the home? And we tried getting a place with my sister, because my sister was my safety plan. 6 months earlier, he had to go to my sister's because some toxic chemicals were spilled in my basement from one of the kids, my daughter's friends. They said they cleaned it up. They didn't. They lied to me. And when the city came in and looked at it, it's my fault. I should have done it. Please don't think I'm putting it off on someone else. But they sent TJ to my sister's for 2 nights while I cleaned the apartment. So they said, oh no, your son, we asked your son if you want to go to your sister. He's afraid of her dogs. I've got pictures of my son playing with said dogs. He wasn't afraid. They just didn't want to put him with them.
Do you think they were being this way to you because they knew your background?
Yeah, because they said that my son should have been taken a whole bunch of cases earlier, but I kept slipping through the system. And it wasn't that I was slipping through the system.
There is no system.
No,
with these guys, there is no system.
Right, but the workers I had previously sat down and got to know me. They talked to people that were in my home.
Well, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to interview everybody.
This woman did not do that. So they put TJ in this foster home out in South Holland. His bus driver called me and said, don't worry, he's okay. Because I was freaking out. They wouldn't tell me where he was. I went to court. I was supposed to get visitation with him. They would not give me visitation with him. Ms. Vargas wouldn't do nothing. The case got transferred to another woman, and I had nothing but problems. In fact, I go to court March 29th for this case to be ended up. And
you're still dealing with it now?
Still dealing with it now. TJ's back in my home, but I got into an altercation with a girl last Wednesday. She showed up at my house drunk. She got mad at me because I wouldn't give her her daughter till the police came. She called DCFS and told them a whole lie.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean when that's like the go-to for people.
Right, and because she knows I have a case, she went, but I'm really grateful for the worker that is involved in it. As she told me, she goes, it's an alleged allegation. She goes, but she came over, talked to me, talked to everybody, talked to my son, and it's proving not to be true.
You know what I find that's frustrating too is you had all these cases against you, and I've heard other people that have, they get false claims put against them. And it seems like when they find out it's a false claim, they don't go after the person that made the false claim. They just are done with it. And they should go after the person that makes the false claim.
Right. In fact, it got to the point where the worker told us, my sister and I mean, we could get my sister on here too. She can verify all this information, that they weren't going to take anonymous reports on me anymore.
Yeah.
But that went out the window.
I see little TJ's got a birthday coming up soon.
Little TJ had a birthday March 4th. He turned 9.
Oh, it was March 4th.
Yes, he's having a bowling party March 18th.
That's what I was seeing on Facebook, that he's got a bowling party. So I forgot to ask you, you get out of prison.
Yes.
And at what point in time do you go to your daughter's grave? My
daughter, they didn't bury her.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed to have any part of her arrangements. My family did it on their own. I'm still hold a lot of resentments about this. My daughter's father and his kids and my sister and my mom planned it. When I called, my mom was so stuck in her grief. She told me that I was being bossy. So my daughter is in an urn in my
Okay, so she was cremated.
Yes, I wear her on my ring. She's in a ring.
You had her made into a diamond?
No, actually, I got a cremation ring.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to show it to you. I took it off the other day. Just putting it back on. I'm going to show you it. She's got my little Tay. So I wear her. She keeps me safe.
So you had nowhere you had to go, but it's nice that you got the ring so you can keep her close by you.
Yes. And I did have a memorial for her afterwards, but it's not the same.
Right. Yeah, that's the difficult part.
And I'm not even gonna lie, like, I don't think I've processed her death to this day.
When did
I
you have
still,
time? I
I
mean,
don't.
seriously, like I'm exhausted just listening to your whole story. It's like
And
it's
you
been
need
like
to
one thing right
know it.
after another. It's been like nonstop. When if you think about it though, when did you have time to process it?
I haven't, and I still wait for her to walk in the door. I
Yeah,
do like on her birthday, I'll let balloons go. But and I'm not trying to like put down anybody, but losing a child, your kids aren't supposed to go before you,
exactly. They're not,
you know? And
especially not
I
that young.
no, she was 16.
God, I mean,
And she was just learning to like her life lessons. She wasn't, she didn't have an easy childhood. Her dad wasn't around, I wasn't around, and that's one thing I'm grateful for today. Yes, I did relapse when they took TJ. They took TJ October 31st, 2019. On November 12th, 2019 was the anniversary of Taylor's murder.
mhm.
I went out and got high. I'm not gonna lie. I just remember thinking, I have nothing else to lose. My kids are
Yeah.
gone. And from November 12th, 2019 to January 30th, 2020, I stayed in active addiction. It was bad. Really bad. I'm not proud of who I was at all.
So at what
Um,
point did you say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm going to do a program. I'm going to stick with that program, and I'm going to continue collecting my chips.
January 30th, I called this woman that was my acting sponsor because the summer before in like July, I had gone to a meeting because I was acting out. When I act out with in other areas. Um, Boys are very good for me when I want to act out. So I got to a meeting and I never called her again. And I called her January 30th. I'm sorry, January 29th. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. January 30th, she met me at 95th and Cicero at the corner bakery and had me write a paper on recovery and relapse. The next night, I went to a meeting, a Tuesday night meeting, and my friend Dave S. took me and bought me a blue book, and I haven't looked back. So I have
95th and
two,
Cicero. That's right. That's Palermo's is right there.
right, but if I go across the street
Yeah,
by where
across
the
the street.
the
Yeah.
corner bakery.
That's
So
awesome
yeah,
though that you've done that and you haven't looked back.
I'm not gonna lie, I struggle. My addiction still comes out in other areas. I have an amazing sponsor, Susan L. She's been my sponsor for almost 2 years now, about a year and a half. She just gave me my 2-year chip on the 30th of January. I'm sorry.
Congrats.
But she's dealing with a lot with me. But she knows what I need. I'm on my fourth step. I put it down when TJ came home. I just picked it back up. And I'm going to tell you, you don't make meetings, you don't do your step work, your disease gets you.
Yeah.
And I've got to stay vigilant and I cannot get compliant.
I think that's the thing with addiction that people that haven't had the trouble with addiction don't understand that addiction it's a morning to night daily process. Like you have to keep your ducks in a row. You got to stay under control. And that one little time that you slip up is the time that it's going to bite you in the ass.
I think I can save the world. I'm Captain Save-A-Ho, especially when it comes to boys. I'm going to fix you. I'm special. You're going to work for me. That's, what my disease says. I
Yeah.
can't save anybody but me, and if you have to change people, places, and things, I can't tell you, I almost slipped up so many times because I was around someone who was drinking, and it's like, I can't do that today. I've got to put my recovery first because if I don't take care of me, who's going to take care of my mom or TJ?
Right. You're right. You're not good to anybody else if you don't take care of yourself.
No.
And a lot of people don't understand that either, that in recovery, once you decide that, hey, I'm sticking with this and I'm doing it, it's almost like you have to drop all of your bad influences and your bad friends.
No,
And
you really do.
you need to struggle and you need to find new friends.
And people also don't realize, like, I wake up in the morning, and some days I have really good days and I'm like, I can do this, no problem. Other days, man, I would love to take a shot. But if I
Hmm.
take one shot, I'm gonna take two shots. That third shot, I'm gonna end up in handcuffs because I'm gonna be at the drug dealer's house.
Yeah.
People don't understand, like, this is something that we have to surrender to on a daily basis. In fact, a longtime high school friend of mine, her and I got into it a couple of weeks ago when they were saying that Biden was handing out free crack pipes. And I'm like,
Hmm.
you don't understand. They're doing that because they're making money off the drug addict.
Right.
And well, they shouldn't choose to pick it up. It's not a choice to pick up.
Right.
You don't know, once you get that disease and you open that door to it, it's hard to close that door.
Yeah, and I
You know,
think
you
that like we were saying, I think people they don't understand how hard that door is and that choice is.
right.
Like a lot of people that haven't dealt with addiction can be like, just don't pick it up or just don't do it. And it's really not that easy for people that struggle with addiction.
No, it's not. Especially, like, I come from an addictive family. My sister and my mother are gamblers. My dad was a drinker. My grandparents were alcoholics. They drank.
Hmm.
My uncle was a gambler. My aunt drank and gambled. I mean, my whole family is there's some sort of addiction, and a lot of our families have addiction, and people don't see it.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And when you're predisposed to it, it's so easy to fall in. And then, and I have low self-esteem, so I always want to people please people. So, like, I used to find myself changing who I was to fit in with whoever I was with.
Hmm.
I mean, it's messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a work in progress,
Yes.
but you're doing great now.
Today I am,
Yeah.
knock on wood.
So that's a positive.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with life today. Like,
Good.
today I get up every morning at 6:30, get my son off to school, get mom her medicine, feed her breakfast, clean the house, get TJ, and then he gets off the bus at 3:20, and we just keep going every
And you
day.
find that helps, doesn't it? A routine.
Oh God, you have to
So
have a
you're always
routine.
busy with a routine and there's no like little downtime.
When I have downtime, I feel the pity party start to go in. And I'm someone, I have to be around people. I love talking to people.
Okay.
I need that social thing, and I need positive affirmation. So, like, my poor neighbor, I was telling her the other day, I'm like, you're stuck with me because I can't leave my house. So when I'm feeling bad, I knock on her door. Yo, what's up? What are we making for dinner tonight?
Yeah.
But it's the path I'm on right now. My mom and I did not have a very close relationship, but I'm grateful that I am here today to take care of her.
Yeah.
She's not in a nursing home. I am taking her life. And don't get me wrong, days I hate it. I have a lot of resentments with my daughter's death, a lot.
Yeah.
But it's my mom, and I'm grateful that I have my son back. That's my world,
Hmm.
and I don't always make the best choices, but I'm learning and I'm being the best mom I can be to him today.
Yeah.
As long as I don't pick up, I'm okay.
Right. That's great. All right.
Definitely will
Well,
not be visiting a prison again.
I hope not.
No.
Unless it's for like Halloween, one of the
I,
haunted
well,
prison tours.
you know what I
Not that you
want
even
to
probably
do?
want to go for that. So
And this is why this is so important to me, is I want to get my story out there.
yeah, I
I
mean,
want,
just what we shared today was like a super compact, piece of your
right.
story, like a quick just jump through the timeline. But there's a lot there for sure.
Yeah. I mean, when Kevin, our mutual friend, first met me, I was toothless. I was just a hot mess. I think I weighed all of 150 pounds, if that's soaking wet. I mean, I was a hot mess. Today, I'm me today. I'm alive. I was
Yeah.
a walking zombie, and it's like, that's one of the things that I love about Kevin, is that he reminds me all the time of how far I've come.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have met
And
you
that's
if it
good. You
wasn't
need
for
people
him.
to do that.
Yeah.
You need people to
And
remind you.
and he introduced me to you, and you're helping me get my story out there.
Yeah,
And
Kevin's
I'm
a
so
good guy.
grateful for that.
He's like Mr. Promoter for everybody.
I know,
He's
isn't
promoting like Dom's, shirts and
he?
hoodies
The
and
inner
stuff, and he's promoting
circle,
my book, and he's
which I have a
promoting you.
copy of.
He's a great guy.
He is. I'm very blessed for the people I have in my life today. Like I said, and the people that you have in your life are very important.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me going. And if my story can change somebody, like you never know who's going to hear the podcast.
Well, it'll be
And if someone,
inspirational to a lot of people.
I hope so,
Yeah.
because I mean, I'm telling you, I hit rock bottom, and I'm not saying I'm saved yet. I got a lot of work to do on Tony, but I'm grateful that I've got the people in my life today that I have. When I celebrated my 2-year anniversary, I had people at the meeting telling me they remember me walking in those doors. They remember me saying, I just want my son back. And now my son goes to meetings with me. He
Nice.
keeps track of my clean time.
Good. He's keeping you. Yeah, he's watching over.
Yes.
Good.
So,
All right. Thanks, Tony. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Joey, thank you. And I still if we could work together again, I want to.
Absolutely.
This is huge for me.
This has been another episode of Joey's Social Club. Come back next week for more hard-hitting stories from the Chicago underworld.